It was the start to the summer of 2023. We were very lucky to be in a situation where we can afford to take a 3-week hiatus from professional life to be able to experience a small piece of the world together. If I had to describe this trip in one word, it would be peaceful. I look back on this time and say to myself, I can't believe we did that. Similar to the Appalachian Trail through hike, this trip also holds camaraderie and adventure, which makes the experience much more worth it. If you can't tell by now, we decided to go on a truck cap camping adventure across the United States, following a little inspiration from others who have done similar things and shared their experience on the internet. We were decked out and ready to go off-grid at a moment's notice and be fully sustaining, at least for a while. We don't have any kids, but we have 2 dogs, Lily and Cairo, and for anyone that doesn't know who we are already, I'm Garrett, and that's Hannah. Cairo. What are you doing back there, bud? We live in central-ish Ohio, and we left some afternoon and tried to get as far as we could. We ended up making it to a Walmart parking lot somewhere in Illinois. We didn't really have a schedule, but we did leave a day earlier than we thought we would. It didn't matter, I was happy to get on the road. That feel of pure freedom only comes along once in a while, and when it does, I want to take advantage of it. I know what you're thinking. How do you live in the back of a truck with 2 adults and 2 dogs? Luckily, we all love each other, so that made it pretty easy. Although we did end up smelling like hell most of the time, but that's okay. Oh, damn, nice view of a pond out back here. From a flash flood.
First night, survived. Good old Walmart parking lot. Oh, please wants to look. How's that? Oh.
The next day we drove for 12 hours. It was actually more than that because we stopped at the Gateway Arch National Park in Missouri. Classifying national parks will continue to be a mystery to me. I'm not really sure how this is a national park, but nonetheless, one of the goals for the trip is to see as many national parks as we can.
Use the right lane to take exit.
Good dogs. You guys are so good. That's good dogs.
After we left St. Louis, we made a beeline for Colorado. Kansas was actually pretty nice, just a lot of rolling hills and a lot of cattle, but that's about it. It's still not too bad. We got into our boondocking spot really late, but the next morning we woke up to an incredible and peaceful spot on a country road not too far from the highway. Boogie eye. Places like this were really nice, equipped with pit toilets and solitude. We made our breakfast and were on our way, never really in a hurry to get anywhere, but also really trying to get to our next destination. On our way to Denver, we were met with an annoying realization that the trip could be held up. The notorious engine light that would make anyone's heart sink. Luckily, it was just an oxygen sensor that would turn on and off throughout the trip. I don't know. Long story short, the truck was fine the rest of the trip. Colorado was an incredible place, but given our goals for daily destinations, we didn't really spend a whole lot of time in one spot. The road was closed through the Rocky Mountain National Park, but we were able to go pretty far one way. We got to a spot, ate lunch, and then turned around to go back into Estes Park, and then go back out around Rocky Mountain National Park. After that, we went to Steamboat Springs, where we thought we might stay for the night. But there really wasn't a good place to stay, so we just kept going like true ramblers. After leaving Estes Park, the drive out around the Rocky Mountain National Park was incredible. Also, my use of the word incredible will become really annoying at some point in this video, but it's true. Everything is incredible. This is Steamboat Springs here. Really nice town, just really touristy. We were able to find camping spots or boondocking spots using an app called iOverlander. People post places where they've stayed and reported how nice, bad, safe, or unsafe it was. This could be regular campgrounds, parking lots, BLM spots, etc. Anyway, this is the morning after we stayed at a boat launch for the Colorado River. We came in here pretty late, but we didn't know where we should stay, and the first spot we thought we were going to stay was a little bit sketchy, so we ended up moving on. Luckily, there were other people here when we got here too, so we felt somewhat safe. This is Glenwood Canyon. Right after the BLM campground that we were going to stay at, then we stayed at the community fishing access area.
Head west on I-70 West.
There's the Colorado River. After the community access fishing spot campsite that we had to hightail it out of there because they didn't have a bathroom and Hannah had to poop. So I'm going to sit here and make coffee. Almost to Utah. Tyro's sleeping. Solar panels charging it. Last spot to stop in Utah for 70 some miles. That's 70 looking back into Colorado. Before getting to Moab, we picked up a couple hitchhikers that looked like they were both backpackers. They were. I wish I had videoed them to remember them. They were both from Germany, I believe, and we helped them get to Moab, which was another 40 miles away, and it was somewhere close to 100 degrees outside. I have a soft spot for backpackers, and they were just trying to get to Moab so they could do some backpacking through Arches National Park. We helped them get around and resupplied before we dropped them off. I must say I have a small amount of envy for them. I can't imagine what they've experienced hitchhiking to the spot that they were at when we picked them up. They just seem to be in the United States trying to hit a lot of the major backpacking spots. It's the end of the line for us. Cairo can't make it up this hill. Just outside of Canyonlands National Park, we stayed at a BLM campsite with quite a few other people. We never really stopped to ask others about their trips, assuming they were on some wild excursion just like us, based on the vehicles they were driving. Anyway, Canyonlands is fairly close to Arches National Park, so we had a quick drive over there after a big day. We got up really early to see the sunrise at Mesa Arch. It was underwhelming, first off. There were a lot of people there just trying to capture the moment, and second, it was overcast so the sun never showed up. Regardless, I was worried about the dogs in the truck most of the whole time. Luckily it was early morning so it was still cool out. This was an incredible, extremely sublime place to witness. I love mountains and the feeling they offer when you're among them, but this gives a whole other feel unlike mountains, almost more peaceful in a way. Since we had an early morning, we stopped after the Mesa Arch to make breakfast and let the dogs play around. Their little foots were so red after playing really hard in this red dirt. Bunch of divots in Utah. Having dogs in a national park makes it tough to really see things with them, so that's why we went to Corona Arch, and this is called Mary Jane's Canyon. It's a long dirt road back into the canyon, and we let the dogs run around. It was such a good time there with them. I'm not really sure how far we went, but it was far enough for Cairo. He's a big dog and he gets really hot, so he liked to mess around in the creek. Billy!
Us. Are you happy?
After a kind of half day, we started our way to Salt Lake City, where we planned to meet up with my buddy that I hiked the Appalachian Trail with. He moved there almost right after we finished the Appalachian Trail. Since it was a work day for him, we stopped at Bridal Veil Falls, just south of Provo, to eat up some time before getting to Salt Lake City. Hannah just graduated dental school, which also allowed us to take this trip without interfering with the professional lives. But anyway, we celebrated with a little gift that was given to her. It was just some champagne stuff. Anyway, this was the first time we slept in a house for a while. The dogs seemed to get along for the most part. It was fun to just sit and reminisce about the trip so far and talk about what's to come.
But you could share in that future if you kept alive the mind as they kept.
The original plan was to go to the Salt Flats in Utah after Salt Lake City, but after careful consideration, we decided to go straight north to Idaho, seeing Shoshone Falls, and then into the Sawtooth National Forest, which I believe to be very underrated. Absolutely incredible out there, and by that I mean it's a lot like other mountainous areas like Glacier National Park or Rocky Mountain National Park. However, it's not a national park, just a national forest, which gives you the views that are just as good as other national parks, without the crowd, so it's just much more peaceful.
That's a Sawtooth Mountain. I can see it right there.
Dial again. And yet he could not keep silent. Feebly, without arguments, with nothing to support him except his inarticulate horror of what O'Brien had said. He
No.
While in the Sawtooths, we tried to go on a little hike, but we didn't get to where we wanted to go because the snow was still annoyingly deep. But the dogs still had fun.
Go get it. Go get it. Lily.
Let her go. Let her see. Let them play.
No.
Why?
Kyra. Or Lily, no. Lily.
Go, Cairo, go.
Come on! Lily, come on!
Let's go.
Come on! Let's go!
I'm about to turn the truck around. So you can get.
Just outside Sawtooth. Okay, you go. Out the window.
You can see through the bird shit.
Hey, bird shit, bugs. After Sawtooth, we made our way to Crater Lake National Park in Oregon. The road going through the park wasn't fully open, so we just saw it from the one side, but it's still my favorite national park that I've seen so far, and I haven't seen all of them, but it's my favorite one so far. On our way there, we stopped in Bend, Oregon, mainly for Deschutes Brewery, and then onward to Crater Lake after we grabbed a few beers and stocked up on some.
Hours and hours. What is that? I mean, I don't know.
What's going on, Lil? What you doing?
We found a good spot to camp just outside Crater Lake at Millen Bar Falls, and the next morning we woke up and made the little hike to the waterfall. This was just a last minute spot we found on the app, and it provided a cool bonus waterfall. Mill Creek Falls. We cleaned up everything after breakfast. We went on a hike to the falls.
Welcome to California.
We dipped into California to see some of the redwoods. After we stopped at the border control, they wanted to make sure that we weren't bringing in any illegal plants or fruits into the state. We told them we had a couple apples, but that's it. Luckily, we got to keep our apples. Anyway, not sure why, but we were both unimpressed with the redwoods for some reason. It's cool to see the trees, but once you've seen a few, then you've kind of seen them all. Still worth the stop, though.
No. Hello.
Maybe I just overhyped it in my head that it was going to be this incredible thing, and it just was kind of cool, and not absolutely incredible.
Like.
After we saw the Roosevelt elk in the redwoods, we made our way back into Oregon. We stopped at some viewpoints along the way, but our ultimate destination was the secret beach. We took the hardest possible way down, but it's all about the experience. It was fun to see the dogs try and get down, and luckily we got down in one piece.
On our way to Secret Beach.
We can go down.
When I think back to this trip, I think of this exact spot. It was just pure fun for us and the dogs. Also, Cairo got in the ocean for the first time. It was pretty funny. He doesn't like it. And also, we took the easier way back up to the truck. We didn't climb up that giant hill.
There you go, Lil. Come on, Cairo. Come on. Come on, bud. Good boy.
We found a spot to camp at a pull-off from the highway right on the coast. It is a really nice spot, and we got to see the sunset right over the Pacific. However, by the morning, Cairo's teeth were chattering, and also by the time I finished making breakfast the next morning, I was completely done being on the coast. The constant wind eventually drove me crazy. The next day was eventful. We drove along the coast a little more and then headed back inland and eventually back to the coast towards the end of the day. My favorite movie, Stand By Me, had some filming locations around Eugene, Oregon, so we went to check them out so I could live a few scenes from the movie. They turned the railroad tracks into a bike path, but the bridge was still there. The rest of the spots still look pretty much the same.
Church, then down the back Carlo Road. We'll be there by sundown.
It's pussy.
Hey, it's a long ways.
That's good. I'm not going to use that part, but you can do whatever you want.
We'd only been gone 2 days, but somehow the town seemed different, smaller.
Boss man Bob Cormier here. It's a beautiful Friday morning in Portland. It's 90 KLAM degrees and getting hotter.
After the nostalgic detour, we went to Eugene to check it out. I don't have any video of it, but it was cool. We went by the outdoor track stadium just to see what it was like. It was nice. Anyway, back to the coast, we stayed at a state park so we could take a shower. There wasn't any boondocking places to camp anyway. Next morning was a hike to God's Thumb. This is God's Thumb. On our way up the coast again, really the whole idea for this trip was to see the Oregon coast. Unfortunately, it annoyed me the whole time because you can't get a break from the wind. Part of the coast was Tillamook. We love Tillamook ice cream, so we stopped by the factory to see what other cool flavors you can get that we can't get back in Ohio. And of course we stopped by Cannon Beach to look at a rock in the water, known as Haystack Rock. It was as expected, but it was nice to live a scene shown in the Goonies, not to mention we stopped in Astoria to see more of the Goonies lore. Over the Columbia River into the state of Washington, we stayed at a county park. I didn't even know those things existed. It's like camping at a state park, but just not quite as nice. But it did well by us. And the dogs had fun. No one else was there. Okay, the next day we headed for Mount Rainier, but before that we stopped in Olympia, in Hannah's mom's hometown, Yelm, Washington. We visited some of her friends, which was genuinely a good time, and it was cool to see some different parts of the state, not just the mainstream tourist areas. We didn't have super good weather on Mount Rainier, and like other national parks, the road through the national park wasn't fully opened, so we were limited as to what we could see. Still a very cool visit, and everything still had a bunch of snow on it, so that made it really fun. We camped with some other nomads at a pull-off just down from Mount Rainier and had a really cool view of the mountain. We also got some meat at a local butcher shop in Yelm, and it was really nice to get some steaks for the road. That's Seattle.
And that's a lifestyle that we never knew.
Cairo.
3, 2, 1.
An improvised change to the plan led us to North Cascades National Park, since we were about a day or so ahead of schedule somehow. This time we could get all the way through the park on the road, and it was absolutely worth it. I don't hear much about North Cascades, but it did not disappoint. We basically just drove all the way through and got out a few times, but since we had our dogs, we didn't do any hiking at all, but really we didn't need to because all the stops along the way were incredible. I would have liked to go to Desolation Peak, but that was a pretty decent hike and not within our time schedule, so maybe some other time. Also, the road through the park kind of dumps us right in a place called Winthrop. It's an old town style tourist trap, but wow, it was really a fun spot to just walk around and see all the shops, and we walked around with the dogs. Of course, we got some local ice cream. I wish I had more videos of it, but it was just really a fun stop. And then we stopped for the night in Davenport, Washington, at basically a Lions Park right beside the town swimming pool. I don't know, the app said people have done this before and parked right here and stayed the night and no one seemed to care. Police patrolled the area, so that's what we did. And we played with the dogs in the park, which was cool.
What do we have on the menu tonight?
Let's give us some backstrap.
From Stewart's Meat Market. Lil, you look like you could eat some. And what's our side tonight? Oh, Spanish rice. But now it's cooked. Oh, I think they want the dog food. Lil. Hi, Lily. Oh, Lil, come on. Good girl.
We took the long way to Glacier National Park just to see more of Idaho, since it's such an underrated state and completely worth seeing all of it.
Heading back east.
All right, you got some east to cover, huh?
We didn't stay long at all in Glacier, since that was our third time there in a relatively short time period. We just stopped to get the essentials. The Huckleberry Bear Claw from Polbridge is an absolute must. If you don't do anything else in Glacier, you go there and you get a Huckleberry Bear Claw with a coffee, and then you'll be fulfilled. Leaving Glacier, we stopped at another one of Hannah's mom's friends just south of Flathead Lake. We stayed for the night, got a shower, did some laundry. And at this point, I think the last time we had a shower was at Devil's Lake Campground back in Oregon.
I think we made up like a lot of time on this route. Oh, whoa. I don't even see him anymore.
Because you got a dust cloud back there.
I'm gonna dust you.
Lizzie, your dad's inappropriate.
Quick stop in Glacier. This is our third time here, so we've seen a lot already.
He's crying. Oh my gosh, he just took a drink of his coffee and spit it everywhere. You alright? I made a joke and he oh my gosh. Caught on fire last year. Right beside Flathead Lake.
After leaving Polson, Montana, the next big stop was Yellowstone National Park. We didn't quite make it in the park after leaving Polson, and it was a mess trying to find a spot to stay the night before heading into the park the next morning.
We were supposed to stay at a state park in Montana, but it was full up because of Memorial Day, so now we're staying at this police officer memorial.
This spot had really nice pit toilets, so that made it a really attractive spot for us. No one was around, so we had the parking lot to ourselves, so the dogs enjoyed chasing the drone around while I was flying it.
Roll this window down so you can see off the side. Is that okay?
No, this is fine. Right on the Yellowstone River at a pull-off. Yellowstone definitely held up to its reputation. It just smelled like butt 95% of the time. There were a lot of people there by our standards, and it was even pretty early in the season, but we still saw a lot in a short amount of time, which was fine by us. So the plan was to go down one side of Yellowstone, stay between Grand Tetons and Yellowstone, go into Grand Tetons, all the way through Grand Tetons, back up through Grand Tetons, back into Yellowstone, and going up the other side of Yellowstone. So it was a lot in a short amount of time. How come I won't use any of this?
Really?
Really?
Why?
Because! Oh, that's not it. That's not the cause of the jam. Wow, that thing's freaking walking like a dumbass. Looks like it hurts. Yeah, it stinks.
There's smokies everywhere.
Grand Prismatic was probably my favorite spot in Yellowstone to see. There were just kind of a lot of people around. Also, if you go, make sure you hike up the Overlook Trail. It's not very long, plus it gives you a really cool view, as long as there's not an absolute ton of people around. Seeing the geysers was pretty cool. However, the most underwhelming part was watching hot water shoot out of the ground at Old Faithful. I mean, it is extremely interesting and cool how consistent it is, but it just wasn't what I thought it would be. And again, there's an absolute ton of people around because it's the main attraction of this place. Between the parks, there wasn't a lot open as far as camping goes. Stayed in a parking lot last night over there behind those trees. Not supposed to do that, I don't think, but a lot of people were. Saved us from spending money. But we only cooked boiled water and cooked ramen. We wanted to stay at one campsite, but that required us to go across a somewhat heavily flowing creek. We didn't want to chance it because no one was around, so we decided to stay the night in a parking lot with a few other nomadic type travelers.
After the parking lot, we found a picnic area just inside the Grand Tetons while we waited for the fog to lift. It's starting to a little bit. Just looks insane.
The Tetons were incredible. It almost seemed fake for the normal person that hadn't seen it before. The reflections of the mountains and the calm lakes added to that illusion. After we went all the way through Grand Tetons, we stopped in Jackson Hole for lunch, and then we were on our way back through Grand Tetons and eventually into Yellowstone, and we stayed in Yellowstone for the night.
Now we're back into Yellowstone to see the Abyss Pool.
We stayed the night at an actual Yellowstone National Park campground at Canyon Village. It was nice to get a shower again and relax a little bit. I always felt a little uneasy about staying the night in a random spot, so when I knew that we were 100% allowed to be staying in a certain spot, I could sleep a little better.
Backing up. Zoom in on the son of a bitch.
As far as I can go, it's a little coyote. And it's gone. Don't hit this person.
Yeah, I know.
Out of Canyon Village, we went up to the Lamar Valley, Cook City, and got on the Beartooth Highway. There was a lot of snow up there once we got towards the top. I think the road had just opened not too long before we got there. It was super peaceful up there until Hannah wanted to get a picture. She wanted me to pull off at one spot and I didn't because there were people there, so I passed it. And then she told me to pull off at another spot, but there looked to be two hoary marmots working to procreate, so I didn't want to interrupt. So I passed them as well. This was the only time we got into a fight. I ended up turning around and we got the picture where the marmots were. They weren't there anymore anyway. This is that picture, by the way.
Good up until...
You can go to auto. Switch it to auto.
There we go. Now we got some good light. Okay.
Getting away from the mountains, we got back into the big open plains of Montana. Red Shale Campground is where we stayed the night after Yellowstone. I'm not sure why, again, but I loved it there. Peaceful is the best word that comes to mind when I decide that I love or remember a certain spot on this trip, and this was one of those spots.
What's for dinner? We got chicken quesadilla. In case you need more cheese, mac and cheese. And then for his appetizer, he had cheese curds. He said he's gonna be backed up for a long time.
The next morning out, we had a full schedule for the day and a lot of dirt road driving. Popping back into Wyoming for a little bit to see the Devil's Tower. It has some interesting lore in the native culture, not to mention it's a very odd, but in a cool way, to see this massive structure formed in the middle of nowhere. Very much worth it to see at least once, and it still gives off a little bit of an eerie feel when you're driving around and walking up towards it.
Made it out alive. But then the gift shop got us.
Just into South Dakota, we stopped at the famous Sturgis, and we ended up at a Lions Park because Cairo had to run off some energy. He was just being real wild. I wish we had better pictures of ourselves at Mount Rushmore because we were soaked to the bone. It rained so hard for like 10 minutes and it stopped. It was a cool landmark to see, but nothing we were going to hang around for all day.
We're here. We parked in the parking garage and then parked underneath the area that is completely open to the sky, so it still rained on the truck. And the windows and Doof must have been getting wet in the back, so we jumped the seat, and now we're all four in the front.
We did hang around at the Crazy Horse Monument for a bit to see some of the interesting stuff at the Native American Museum they had on site. They've been working on this thing since I was in first grade or so. I hope they get it done in my lifetime. I would definitely go back.
It costs $15 per person to get in here. And the guy was paying or we were paying the guy, and then Cairo pooped his pants. So we had to roll the window down.
Just freaking flowing out of this thing.
He is so stinky. He wants his window down. Left.
We got here too late at Wind Cave to go on a cave tour, so we went on a little hike up around this prairie. And then it rained on us, and the dogs are wet.
We are at French Creek Campgrounds in South Dakota. We drove a lot of dirt roads today. What are we having tonight?
Chicken and mac and cheese.
Oh, chicken's not on. Bacon.
Make a dog turd taste good.
Hi, Lil. Good girl. Mr. Hyro. How you doing, Mr. Hyro? Oh, you happy?
After the French Creek campground, which by the way was just a primitive Forest Service campground, it was super nice. However, I ended up going to bed at like 7:30 because the mosquitoes were absolutely insane. More dirt roads all the way to the Badlands. Again, it's a wild place. And similar to the Devil's Tower, there's nothing around, and then you see this incredible thing, or in this case, an incredible huge area of this natural landmark type of thing. I mean, I know they know how it was formed, but that doesn't change the fact that it's weird, and it just looks weird to see this landscape come out in the middle of nowhere.
Bunch of prairie dogs out there. No one's to get them.
Something is wrong about this situation. We got Lillian Garrett in the back, and this is our new driver. Oh, Hyro. He already honked the horn. Got his big old body up here and turn around and beep, beep. He's so excited because we got the AC. We got the AC right. Last night of camping outside. Truck got dirty today in the Badlands. What's for dinner?
Fat ass steaks.
We're gonna be here for a minute cooking these things. And
here we are just inside Minnesota at Blue Mountain State Park. It's basically just a suburbia for people that want to go camping. Not my cup of tea, but it worked for us right before our last stop in Chicago.
got my rainbow pants on today.
On our way to Chicago, our final stop before home, one of Hannah's high school friends lived there, and it was a perfect spot to break up the drive and just visit for a little bit. And we hadn't slept in a house since Salt Lake City, so it's been a while, but just a perfect stop. Thanks for letting us stay over.
What we think, Duff? You sad? One last window washing? Oh, staring at Dad.
And now, finally, on our way home. Looking back, I was never really that sad to leave an incredible place for some reason. Of course, I was happy to have been there and to see it, but it was never really about that. I mean, it was a little bit, but the majority of it was to share the experience together, being happy together while trying to achieve this goal. See, it's all about the camaraderie to me. I was always looking forward to getting back on the road to see the next thing. When there's some desire to stay in one spot, you're essentially hindering the adventure and its ultimate goal. At least, in this case, you are. One more thing, Cairo died about 3 months after we got back from the trip. It completely shattered me. He had been through a lot with me, and I had been through a lot with him. I'm glad we had this time together, though. As always, happiness is best when shared.